Here's a continuation of Part 1. The Trojan Horse, expanded to approximately 1,200 words. The vast emptiness of space shimmered as thousands of ships materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system. The Galactic Empire's fleet, a symphony of advanced alloys and pulsing energy fields, stretched as far as the eye could see. At its center, the flagship Eternal Dominion loomed like a metal leviathan, dwarfing even the largest human space stations. Admiral Zaxloren, a towering figure with iridescent scales and 6 piercing eyes, stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. His tendrils twitched with anticipation as he gazed at the blue marble that was Earth. "Pitiful," he muttered, "to think this backwater planet has resisted integration for so long." His second-in-command, Commander Vex, approached with a datapad. "Admiral, our long-range scans confirm the humans have expanded their lunar base and established rudimentary colonies on Mars. However, their military capabilities remain primitive." Zaxloren's mouth twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. "Excellent. Broadcast the ultimatum." Across Earth, screens flickered to life. From smartphones to giant billboards in Times Square, every display showed the same image: Admiral Zaxloren's imposing figure. "People of Earth," his voice boomed in perfect English, translated simultaneously into every language. "Your prolonged resistance to joining the Galactic Empire ends today. You have 24 Earth hours to surrender unconditionally. Failure to comply will result in the complete annihilation of your species. Choose wisely." The transmission cut off, leaving billions in stunned silence. In the depths of No Raid, hidden beneath Cheyenne Mountain, world leaders and military commanders gathered in emergency session. The atmosphere was thick with tension and the acrid smell of fear. U.S. President Elena Rodriguez slammed her fist on the table. "We can't just give up. Humanity has never bowed to tyrants before, and we won't start now." General Zhang of the Chinese People's Liberation Army shook his head solemnly. "Madam President, with all due respect, we've never faced a threat of this magnitude. Our most advanced weapons would be like throwing pebbles at a tsunami." The room erupted into heated arguments. Some advocated for a last stand, others for immediate surrender to save as many lives as possible. As the debate raged, UN Secretary-General Adebayo cleared his throat, silencing the room. "My friends," he said, his voice calm but heavy with the weight of decision, "I'm afraid we have no choice. We must surrender." A collective gasp filled the room, followed by protests and shouts of "traitor." President Rodriguez's face turned crimson with rage. "You can't be serious," she exclaimed. "We can't just roll over and die." Secretary-General Adebayo raised his hand, calling for silence. "Please, hear me out. What I'm about to share with you is known only to a select few. It's time you learned about Project Odysseus." He nodded to his aide, who distributed sealed folders to everyone present. As the world leaders opened them, their eyes widened in disbelief. This can't be real," muttered the British Prime Minister, his hand shaking as he flipped through the pages. "Oh, but it is," Adebayo confirmed. "For the past 50 years, since our first confirmed contact with alien life, we've been preparing. Not with obvious military buildup, but with subterfuge and misdirection on a scale never before attempted." He walked to a large screen and brought up a series of images, schematics, personnel files, and satellite photos of seemingly innocuous locations around the world. Project Odysseus is humanity's ultimate insurance policy. While we publicly pursued space exploration and defensive technologies, a secret coalition of nations has been working on something far more ambitious. The screen changed to show a cutaway diagram of the moon. Gasps filled the room as they realized the Earth's satellite was not what it seemed. "My God," whispered President Rodriguez, "we hollowed out the moon." Adebayo nodded. "Not entirely, but enough. Hidden within is humanity's greatest achievement, a supercarrier capable of going toe-to-toe with the most advanced alien fleets. We've reverse-engineered every scrap of alien tech we could get our hands on, combined it with our own innovations, and created something that even the Galactic Empire can't imagine. General Zhang leaned forward, his earlier pessimism replaced with keen interest. But how? The resources required. The secrecy. It wasn't easy, Adebayo admitted. We've had to orchestrate global events, manipulate economies, and even stage conflicts to hide the true scale of our efforts. Every major nation represented here has played a part, whether they knew it or not. The Russian president, Anastasia Volkova, narrowed her eyes. And the crew for this Supercarrier. Surely we don't have enough trained personnel. Adebayo's expression turned grim. That's where things get ethically murky. We've been secretly training pilots, engineers, and soldiers their entire lives. Some are volunteers who've lived on hidden lunar bases for years. Others don't even know their true purpose yet. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They had all made difficult decisions in their political careers, but this was beyond anything they had imagined. President Rodriguez broke the silence. So when we surrender, we spring the trap, Adebayo finished. The Empire thinks they're walking into a simple occupation. Instead, they'll be facing the fight of their lives. For the next hour, the world leaders debated the moral and practical implications of the plan. The weight of the decision pressed down on them. The fate of not just their nations, but all of humanity hung in the balance. Finally, President Rodriguez stood. We don't have the luxury of time for further debate. I move that we proceed with Project Odysseus. All in favor. One by one, hands raised. The decision was unanimous. Very well, Adebayo said, his voice solemn. Let's give the performance of our lives. Within hours, a new broadcast went out to the Galactic Empire fleet. On screens throughout the alien armada, the world's leaders appeared, their faces masks of defeat and resignation. President Rodriguez, her voice cracking with apparent emotion, delivered the message to Admiral Zaxloren and the forces of the Galactic Empire. After careful consideration, we, the United Nations of Earth, hereby surrender. The words hung in the air, broadcasting across the solar system and back to Earth. Riots broke out in major cities as the news spread. Military personnel, unaware of the greater plan, reacted with a mix of anger and despair. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Zaxloren's tendrils quivered with satisfaction. Prepare the landing forces, he commanded. Let's show these humans the benevolence of imperial rule. As the first wave of Imperial shuttles began their descent towards Earth, a silent signal pulsed from deep within NORAD. Across the globe, hidden systems whirred to life. In secret bunkers, specially trained teams took their positions. And far above, in the airless depths of the moon, something vast and ancient began to stir. The trap was set. Humanity's greatest gamble was about to begin. The Galactic Empire's occupation of Earth began with an eerie calm. Massive ships hovered over major cities, their shadows casting a pall over the streets below. Imperial troops, a mix of various alien species in sleek armor, patrolled alongside human law enforcement. In New York's Central Park, a group of children gawked at a towering four-armed Chronaxian soldier. The aliens' mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Look how docile they are, remarked Captain Vril, a serpentine Ceslith, to his human liaison. Your species adapts quickly. The liaison, a stone-faced NYPD officer named Rodriguez, nodded stiffly. We're full of surprises. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, still in high Earth orbit, Admiral Zaxloren reviewed the occupation reports with growing satisfaction. Everything was proceeding smoothly, too smoothly, perhaps. Commander Vex, he called out, are you detecting any unusual activity from the humans? Vex's tendrils twitched as he consulted his data screens. Nothing significant, Admiral. Although, he paused, his brow furrowing. Speak, Commander. There are some anomalous energy readings coming from their moon. Probably nothing. but they don't match our previous scans. Zaxloren's eyes narrowed. Increase monitoring of the lunar surface, and send a scout ship for a closer look. As the occupation entered its third day, the first cracks in the Empire's confident veneer began to appear. Reports flooded in from across the globe of hit-and-run attacks on Imperial patrols. In London, a squad of alien troops was ambushed by figures wielding surprisingly advanced energy weapons. Before reinforcements could arrive, the attackers melted away into the city's winding streets. Similar incidents occurred in Beijing, Lagos, and Sao Paulo. Each time, the human resistance fighters displayed combat skills and technology that far exceeded Imperial intelligence estimates. Captain Vril found himself pinned down in a New York subway station, energy bolts sizzling past his head. "This is impossible," he hissed into his comm unit. "These primitives shouldn't have weapons like this." As he prepared to make a final stand, Vril felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to see Officer Rodriguez, the human liaison, pointing a strange device at him. "Like I said," Rodriguez smirked, "we're full of surprises." A flash of light engulfed Vril, and he knew no more. High above the Earth, the Imperial scout ship Vigilant Hawk approached the moon. Its sensors probed the dusty surface, searching for the source of the anomalous readings. "Captain," the sensor operator reported, "I'm detecting a massive power surge from the far side of the moon." Before the captain could respond, the lunar surface beneath them began to shift. Dust and rocks fell away, revealing gleaming metal panels. Massive seams appeared across the moon's face, yawning open like the maw of some colossal beast. "By the Emperor's 7 hearts," the captain whispered. "What is that?" His question was answered as a titanic structure rose from the moon's interior. It dwarfed anything in the Imperial fleet, its hull bristling with weapon emplacements and launch bays. As it cleared the lunar surface, the ship's name became visible: Humanity's Hope. Panic erupted aboard the Eternal Dominion as the Vigilant Hawk's frantic transmissions reached them. Admiral Zaxloren stared at the viewscreen in disbelief as the human supercarrier emerged fully from its lunar hangar. "Impossible," he muttered. "Their technology was primitive. We saw their pathetic attempts at spaceflight." Commander Vex's voice shook as he reported, "Admiral, we're detecting thousands of smaller craft launching from the carrier. They're heading for our fleet." On Earth, the emergence of Humanity's Hope was met with an explosion of long-suppressed emotion. Cheers erupted from rooftops and streets as people emerged from their homes, no longer cowed by the Imperial presence. In Times Square, the giant screens flickered to life, showing the bridge of Humanity's Hope. A diverse crew of humans manned various stations, their movements practiced and precise. At the center stood Fleet Admiral Kimberly Chen, her weathered face a mask of determination. "People of Earth," she began, her voice resonating through every speaker and device, "and to our uninvited guests from the stars. For decades, we have hidden our true strength, waiting for this moment. The Galactic Empire thought they found an easy conquest. Instead, they've walked into the fight of their lives." As she spoke, squadrons of Earth fighters engaged the surprised Imperial forces in orbit. The human craft were marvels of engineering, combining reverse-engineered alien tech with unique terrestrial innovations. They danced through space, their maneuvers defying the expectations of their opponents. Admiral Zaxloren roared orders, trying to rally his fleet. "Bring all weapons to bear on that carrier. Launch all fighters. We will crush these upstart humans." But the Imperial response was uncoordinated and panicked. As they scrambled to mount a defense, a new threat emerged. Imperial ship after ship suddenly went dark, their systems hijacked by an unseen force. Aboard Humanity's Hope, a young lieutenant turned to Admiral Chen. "Ma'am, Prometheus is fully engaged. Imperial cyber defenses are crumbling." Chen nodded grimly. "Good. Let them taste the full power of our quantum eye." Prometheus, Earth's secret supercomputer, had been waiting years for this moment. It tore through the Imperial fleet's networks like a digital storm, disabling weapons, scrambling communications, and even turning some ships against their allies. On the Eternal Dominion's bridge, chaos reigned. Consoles sparked and screens flashed with indecipherable symbols. Commander Vex stared at his useless controls in horror. "Admiral, we've lost control of half the fleet. Our own ships are firing on us." Zaxloren, his composure finally breaking, bellowed in rage. How? They were nothing. We are the Galactic Empire. We cannot be defeated by these humans. As if in answer to his outburst, a transmission cut through the static on the Eternal Dominion's main view screen. An Imperial captain appeared, his uniform disheveled, and his eyes wild with a mix of fear and awe. "This is Captain Crozar of the Undaunted Fury," he announced, his voice trembling. I am defecting to the human forces. Their power, their ingenuity, it's beyond anything we've seen. We were fools to underestimate them." Zaxloren could only watch in stunned silence as the Undaunted Fury turned its weapons on its former allies, joined by a growing number of other defecting ships. Back on Earth, the tide had turned decisively. Imperial ground forces, cut off from orbital support and facing an increasingly hostile population armed with hidden caches of advanced weapons, began to surrender en masse. In Central Park, the once proud Chronaxian soldier found himself surrounded by a group of elderly humans, all wielding energy staffs with practiced ease. "We've been waiting a long time for this," one old woman said with a fierce grin. "Now, hands up, big fella." As the battle raged in space and Imperial resistance crumbled on Earth, Admiral Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Send word to our allies in the Free Galaxy Alliance," she ordered. "Tell them it's time. The revolution begins now." Across the galaxy, on 100 subjugated worlds, oppressed species looked to the skies with newfound hope. Humanity had done the impossible. They had broken the chains of empire. And this was only the beginning. The space around Earth had transformed into a celestial battlefield, a dazzling and terrifying spectacle visible even from the planet's surface. Streaks of energy weapons crisscrossed the void, while explosions bloomed like silent, deadly flowers. At the heart of this chaos, humanity's hope stood firm, its massive hull gleaming under the assault of Imperial weapons. From its launch bays, wave after wave of fighters emerge, each one a testament to human ingenuity and the fusion of terrestrial and alien technologies. On the bridge of humanity's hope, Fleet Admiral Chen watched the tactical displays with steely focus. "Status report," she commanded. Her XO, Commander Rashid, responded promptly. "Our primary shields are holding at 82%, Admiral. Prometheus has successfully disrupted 60% of the Imperial fleet systems. Our fighter squadrons report minimal losses and are pressing the advantage." Chen nodded, allowing herself a moment of grim satisfaction. "And a hybrid squadron. Performing beyond expectations, ma'am." "There." A dazzling flash on the main view screen interrupted him. A wing of human fighters had just executed a maneuver that seemed to defy the laws of physics, effortlessly evading a barrage of Imperial fire before unleashing a devastating counterattack. "Magnificent," Chen breathed. The hybrid squadron, the crown jewel of Earth's defense program, was a closely guarded secret even within the ranks of those who knew about Project Odysseus. Each fighter was piloted by a seamless blend of human consciousness and advanced AI, creating entities that combined human intuition with machine precision. Aboard his fighter, callsign Nexus, Captain Aiden Cho felt the familiar rush as his mind melded with the AI. They moved as one, processing battlefield data at incredible speeds and making split-second decisions that no purely human or machine pilot could match. "Nexus to hybrid squadron," Cho communicated through the neural link. "Execute maneuver Theta 9. As one, the squadron peeled off, diving through a gap in the Imperial formation. They twisted and corkscrewed, leaving havoc in their wake as confused enemy ships fired on each other in their attempt to target the elusive human craft. On the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Loren watched in growing despair as his fleet fell into disarray. "How?" he muttered. "How are they flying like that?" Commander Vex, his scales pale with stress, shook his head. "Unknown, Admiral. Our targeting systems can't keep up with their movements. It's as if they know what we're going to do before we do it." A violent shudder ran through the ship as another volley from humanity's hope struck home. Alarms blared, and crew members scrambled to contain the damage. "Admiral," a junior officer called out, panic evident in his voice, "we're detecting thousands of smaller signatures launching from the planet's surface." Loren turned to the tactical display, his eyes widening in disbelief. All across the Earth, hidden launch facilities had opened, disgorging swarms of smaller craft. Some headed for space, joining the battle above, while others engaged Imperial ground forces. In New York, the Statue of Liberty's torch suddenly split open, revealing a concealed energy cannon that began firing on Imperial ships in the harbor. In Egypt, the Great Pyramid of Giza shifted, its ancient stones sliding apart to allow a squadron of fighters to emerge from deep underground hangars. Similar scenes played out across the globe. The Eiffel Tower transformed into a communications array, coordinating Earth's defenses. The Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro raised its arms, generating a force field that protected the city from orbital bombardment. Humanity had turned its entire planet into a fortress, with weapons and defenses hidden in plain sight for decades. As the battle raged in space and on Earth's surface, another front opened in the digital realm. Prometheus, Earth's quantum AI, had fully infiltrated the Imperial network. It moved through their systems like a digital god, rewriting code and seizing control with terrifying efficiency. On ships across the Imperial fleet, systems went haywire. Life support failed, weapons turned on their own vessels, and navigation computers sent ships on collision courses with their allies. Aboard the undaunted Fury, the defected Captain Crozar worked feverishly alongside his human allies. His knowledge of Imperial systems proved invaluable as they coordinated attacks on his former comrades. "I never imagined," Crozar muttered as he watched a human technician effortlessly bypass security protocols that he had once thought impenetrable. "Your species, you're not what we thought you were." The technician, a young woman named Zara, flashed him a fierce grin. "That was the idea, Captain. We played the long game, and now—" She gestured to the view screen, where another Imperial capital ship was going dark, its systems overridden by Prometheus. On Earth's surface, the tide had definitively turned. Imperial ground forces, already reeling from the unexpected resistance, now found themselves cut off from orbital support and facing an increasingly hostile population armed with weapons that matched or exceeded their own. In London's Trafalgar Square, a squad of Chronaxian shock troops found themselves surrounded by a peculiar group of defenders. Elderly men and women, some leaning on canes or seated in hover chairs, wielded energy weapons with practiced ease. "Terribly sorry about this, dears," one octogenarian said as she adjusted her spectacles, "but I'm afraid your invasion has been canceled." With surprising agility, she ducked an energy blast and returned fire, her shot finding its mark with unerring accuracy. These were the veterans of Earth's secret space program, men and women who had trained for decades in hidden facilities, preparing for this very day. Now they led the charge, their years of experience more than making up for their advanced age. As the battle entered its 6th hour, the Imperial fleet was in full retreat. Ships fled in disarray, many badly damaged or under the control of Prometheus. The Eternal Dominion, once the pride of the Imperial Navy, limped away from Earth, trailing debris and venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. On its bridge, Admiral Loren stared at the tactical displays in numb disbelief. Send the signal," he finally croaked. "Full retreat. All forces, disengage and rendezvous at Rally Point Omega." Commander Vex hesitated only for a moment before carrying out the order. As the remnants of the once mighty fleet fled Earth's orbit, he turned to his admiral. "Sir, what do we tell the Emperor?" Zaxloren's shoulders slumped in defeat. "The truth, Commander. We tell him that we gravely underestimated these humans, and that the galaxy as we know it will never be the same." As the Imperial forces retreated, cheers erupted across Earth. In cities and towns, humans embraced their neighbors, and even the alien defectors who had chosen to stand with them. The long-hidden truth was finally revealed to all. Humanity was not merely a primitive species on a backwater planet, but a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. Aboard humanity's hope, Admiral Chen allowed herself a small smile as she watched the Imperial fleet flee. But she knew this was only the beginning. "Send word to our allies in the Free Galaxy Alliance," she ordered. "Tell them it's time. The revolution begins now." Across the stars, on countless worlds oppressed by the Galactic Empire, hope began to stir. The news spread like wildfire. Earth had stood against the Empire and emerged victorious. The chains of tyranny were beginning to break, and a new era of freedom was dawning. The battle of broken chains was over, but the war for the galaxy's future had only just begun. The aftermath of Earth's stunning victory rippled across the galaxy like a shockwave. In the days following the Battle of Broken Chains, the Galactic Empire's carefully maintained facade of invincibility crumbled. On thousands of worlds, from sprawling ecumenopolises to remote outposts, the news spread through whispered conversations, encrypted transmissions, and daring public broadcasts. On Zerlath, a planet of eternal twilight, holographic displays in crowded marketplaces flickered with grainy footage of Earth's Supercarrier emerging from the moon. Tentacled merchants and their customers gathered in awed silence, watching human fighters dance through Imperial formations with impossible grace. In the crystalline spires of Luminara Prime, members of the subjugated Photori race communicated through pulses of light, sharing the astounding tales of Earth's resistance. Their bioluminescent skin flashed with patterns of hope and excitement for the first time in generations. Deep within the asteroid mines of the Kuiper Belt, word reached the enslaved Vulcaran workers. As they paused their backbreaking labor, their compound eyes reflected the images of humans standing tall against Imperial troops. Mandibles clicked in astonishment and growing resolve. The Empire scrambled to contain the spread of information, but they were fighting a losing battle against an enemy they had never truly understood: human ingenuity in the digital realm. Prometheus, Earth's quantum AI, had not been idle in the wake of the battle. It extended its reach across the galactic data networks, slipping past firewalls and security protocols with ease. Imperial sensors found themselves in a desperate game of whack-a-mole, trying to stamp out the flood of Earth's transmissions only to see them pop up elsewhere moments later. On Coruscant, the Imperial capital, Grand Moff Faxon addressed an emergency session of the Imperial Senate. His usual smooth confidence was noticeably strained. "Honored representatives," he began, his voice echoing through the vast chamber, "I assure you that the situation on Sol 3 is under control. These humans merely caught us off guard with some primitive trickery. Even now, our fleets are regrouping too." He was cut off as every screen in the chamber suddenly flickered to life, showing the face of Fleet Admiral Chen. The Imperial technicians frantically tried to cut the transmission, but to no avail. "People of the galaxy," Chen's voice rang out, calm but filled with conviction, "you have been lied to. Earth is not alone in its desire for freedom. Even now, we are reaching out to all those who would throw off the shackles of Imperial rule. Together, we can forge a new future, a free galaxy alliance where all species stand as equals." The transmission cut off, leaving the Senate in an uproar. Grand Moff Faxon's face had turned a sickly shade of green. In the following hours, the Empire's worst fears were realized. Prompted by Earth's example, and aided by Prometheus's cyber warfare capabilities, rebellions erupted across the galaxy. On the forest world of Arborea, the tree-dwelling Sylvans launched a coordinated attack on Imperial logging operations. Their usually peaceful canopy homes transformed into fortresses, raining down bioengineered seed pods that sprouted into entangling vines, immobilizing Imperial walkers. In the depths of Oceania's vast seas, the aquatic mer collective rose up against their Imperial overseers. Swarms of cybernetically enhanced fish and crustaceans overwhelmed Imperial submersibles, while mer telepaths turned the Empire's own troops against each other. The industrial planet Forge VI ground to a halt as the robot workers, inspired by tales of Earth's AI, broke free of their restraints. Led by a charismatic assembler unit dubbed Sprocket, they turned the planet's vast factories towards producing weapons for the rebellion. But it wasn't just long-oppressed species that joined the fight. Inspired by Captain Crozar's defection during the Battle of Broken Chains, Imperial citizens began to question their loyalty. The Empire's carefully constructed propaganda began to crumble in the face of undeniable evidence of Earth's victory. On the Imperial Naval Academy world of Stanislaw IV, a group of cadets led by a young Ceslith named Sci-Fi staged a daring mutiny. They commandeered a light cruiser, the Swift Justice, and set course for Earth, eager to join the fledgling Free Galaxy Alliance. Meanwhile, Earth had become the center of a diplomatic whirlwind. Representatives from hundreds of species arrived, some openly and others in secret, all seeking to learn more about the humans who had done the impossible. The United Nations headquarters in New York, once thought quaint by galactic standards, now bustled with activity. Translators worked overtime as delegates from across the stars hammered out the details of the Free Galaxy Alliance. In one of the conference rooms, Admiral Chen sat across from Zokvol, a gelatinous being from the silicon-based holomorph collective. "Your victory was impressive," Zokvol burbled through its translator. "But surely you must realize the Empire will not take this lying down. They will return, with a force that makes the previous fleet look like a scouting party." Chen nodded gravely. "We're counting on it. That's why we need allies like you. Earth may have struck the first blow, but we can't win this war alone." As if to underscore her point, a holographic display sprang to life between them, showing the latest intelligence from the front lines of the expanding rebellion. Dozens of star systems were now openly declaring for the Free Galaxy Alliance, with more joining every hour. But the news wasn't all good. Reports were coming in of brutal Imperial reprisals against worlds suspected of rebel sympathies. The Empire was lashing out in desperation, and innocents were paying the price. On Nebulon Prime, Imperial dreadnoughts hung in low orbit, their weapons trained on population centers. An ultimatum was issued: surrender the rebel leaders, or face planetary bombardment. The Nebulites, a peaceful race of scholars, faced an impossible choice. It was in this moment of crisis that Earth proved it was more than just a military power. A transmission went out from humanity's hope, broadcast across the Nebulon system. The holographic figure of a human appeared, not a military leader or politician, but a simple teacher named Sarah Okello. "People of Nebulon Prime," she began, her voice gentle but firm, "I know you're afraid. The Empire wants you to believe that violence is the only answer. But Earth's victory wasn't just about superior weapons or clever tactics. It was about the strength we find in unity, in standing together against tyranny." As she spoke, reports came in from across Nebulon Prime. Inspired by her words, millions of Nebulites were engaging in peaceful protest, forming living shields around key locations. Imperial troops, faced with this wall of nonviolent resistance, hesitated. In that moment of uncertainty, a fleet of ships dropped out of hyperspace. The Swift Justice, accompanied by a ragtag armada of defectors and rebel forces. Caught between the protesters on the ground and the newly arrived fleet, the Imperial forces withdrew. Word of the Nebulon Prime incident spread rapidly, further fueling the rebellion. The Free Galaxy Alliance was proving to be not just a military force, but a movement that could inspire hope across the stars. As the galactic wildfire of rebellion continued to spread, Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of humanity's hope, gazing out at the stars. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but for the first time in millennia, the galaxy dared to dream of true freedom. The board was set, the pieces in motion. The next move would determine the fate of not just humanity, but countless species across the cosmos. The game for the galaxy's future had truly begun. The galactic capital of Axiom Prime pulsed with nervous energy. Once a shining jewel of imperial might, its gleaming spires and bustling skyways now felt like a facade, barely concealing the uncertainty that gripped the heart of the Galactic Empire. In the imperial throne room, a vast chamber of polished obsidian and pulsing energy fields, Emperor Zex Alvian pored over holographic displays, showing the extent of the rebellion. His iridescent scales shimmered with barely contained fury as system after system flashed from imperial purple to the blue of the Free Galaxy Alliance. Incompetence, he snarled, his clawed hand swiping through a hologram of Admiral Zax Loren. I surrounded myself with fools who couldn't subdue a single primitive world. Grand Vizier Quilks, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate exosuit, drifted forward. Your Imperial Majesty, perhaps it's time we considered alternative strategies. The Emperor's multifaceted eyes narrowed. Explain. These humans have proven far more resourceful than we anticipated, but every weapon can be turned against its wielder. What if we could make Earth's strength our own? As Quilks outlined his plan, a slow, dangerous smile spread across the Emperor's face. Across the galaxy, the leaders of the Free Galaxy Alliance gathered on humanity's hope for an emergency summit. The massive ship, now a symbol of hope for billions, had been converted into a mobile headquarters for the rebellion. In the war room, delegates from 100 worlds crowded around a tactical display. Admiral Chen stood at its head, her face grim as she surveyed the latest reports. The good news is that we've liberated nearly a third of Imperial space, she began. The bad news is that the Empire is regrouping faster than we anticipated. They're adopting our guerrilla tactics, and their remaining forces are being led by commanders who've learned from their earlier mistakes. Zokful, the polymorph representative, rippled with concern. We're stretched thin as it is. If the Empire launches a major counteroffensive, a klaxon cut him off. Lieutenant Commander Rashid's voice came over the intercom, tense but controlled. Admiral, we're detecting a massive hyperspace signature. It's the Imperial Apex, the Emperor's personal dreadnought. The room erupted in a cacophony of alarmed voices and hurried strategy discussions. Chen raised a hand for silence. Hold positions. Let's see what they want. The vast form of the Imperial Apex dropped out of hyperspace, dwarfing even humanity's hope. But instead of opening fire, it broadcast on all frequencies. Emperor Zex Alvian's holographic visage appeared before the assembled leaders. His voice, smooth and cultured, belied the gravity of the situation. Greetings, worthy adversaries. I come not to wage war, but to parley. Admiral Chen, I believe we have much to discuss. Hours later, in a specially prepared neutral chamber, Chen found herself face to face with the Emperor of 1,000 worlds. The tension was palpable as two of the galaxy's most powerful beings engaged in a battle of wits and wills. I must admit, Zex Alvian began, his voice a silky purr. You humans have impressed me. Such audacity, such innovation. It would be a shame to see it all go to waste in a protracted war. Chen's eyes narrowed. If you're here to demand our surrender. Oh no, my dear Admiral. Quite the opposite. The Emperor's eyes glinted. I'm here to offer humanity, a place of honor within the Empire. He gestured, and a holographic display sprang to life between them, showing a restructured imperial hierarchy with Earth at its apex, second only to the Emperor himself. Imagine it, Zex Alvian continued, the combined might of the Empire, with humanity as its strong right arm. No more need for rebellion or bloodshed. Together, we could usher in an era of peace and prosperity the galaxy has never known. Chen studied the display, her mind racing. The offer was tempting, she had to admit. Earth would gain power beyond imagination, and they could potentially reform the Empire from within. But at what cost? And what of our allies? She asked. The worlds that rose up with us. The Emperor waved a dismissive hand. Minor concessions could be made, of course. But surely you understand that true peace requires a firm hand. Some examples may need to be made. As Chen listened to the Emperor's honeyed words, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. This was more than a military decision. It was a choice that would shape the fate of countless beings across the stars. While the negotiations continued in secret, word of the Emperor's arrival spread like wildfire. On Earth and 1,000 other worlds, beings of all species waited with bated breath for news of their fate. In New York's Central Park, humans mingled with alien refugees and defectors. The same Chronaxian soldier who had once patrolled these streets as a conqueror now played a game of hover frisbee with a group of children, his 4 arms giving him a distinct advantage. Nearby, Captain Crozar of the Undaunted Fury engaged in a heated debate with a human historian about the true origins of the Empire. Their argument was passionate but friendly, a testament to how much had changed in so short a time. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On Nebulon Prime, Nebulite scholars worked alongside human scientists, combining their knowledge to push the boundaries of physics. In the asteroid mines of the Kuiper Belt, former Volcrin slaves taught human engineers the intricacies of zero construction. The Free Galaxy Alliance was more than a military coalition. It was becoming a tapestry of cultures, a testament to what could be achieved when diverse species worked together as equals. As the hours ticked by, tension mounted. Rumors swirled about the nature of the Emperor's offer. Some feared betrayal, while others dared to hope for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. Finally, after what seemed an eternity, Admiral Chen emerged from the negotiation chamber. Her face was a mask of careful neutrality as she addressed the assembled leaders of the Alliance. The Emperor has offered humanity a place of prominence within the Empire, she began, her voice steady. A murmur ran through the crowd. In exchange, we would bring our allies into the Imperial fold and help pacify any remaining resistance. The room erupted in a chaos of voices. Some counseled acceptance, arguing that they could change the Empire from within. Others vehemently opposed any deal with the tyrant who had oppressed them for so long. Chen raised her hand for silence. I haven't given the Emperor our answer yet. This isn't a decision I can make alone. We started this rebellion together, and we'll decide its fate together. She turned to the communication officers. Broadcast this across the Alliance. I want every world, every being under our protection to have a voice. We have 6 hours before the Emperor demands an answer. Let's show the galaxy what real democracy looks like. As the message went out, the leaders of the Alliance began the monumental task of organizing a galactic referendum. It was an unprecedented move. Never before had so many diverse species been asked to collectively decide the fate of known space. Aboard the Imperial Apex, Emperor Alvian watched the unfolding events with a mixture of amusement and disbelief. Fascinating creatures. These humans, he mused to Grand Vizier Quilks. Do they really think they can govern a galaxy by committee? Quilks's energy form flickered uncertainly. And if they refuse our offer, Your Majesty? The Emperor's eyes hardened. Then they will learn why I have ruled for 1,000 years. One way or another, this rebellion ends today. As the clock ticked down, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The next few hours would determine whether the stars would witness the birth of a new era of freedom and cooperation, or the resurgence of an ancient, terrible power. The Emperor had played his gambit. Now it was humanity's move.